Hey everybody, welcome back to B3 Party C. Today I'm doing like live, but nobody's really in here other than my wife. So thank you for supporting the podcast, like always. If you do happen to join randomly or whatever, um, you can click the request live call-in button, and you can basically call in and join. But that's up to you guys. Today I'm gonna be talking about something really important, and I do want to preface and say that I'm not like an expert or even close to like even doing the things that I'm gonna say myself. So like the way that I like to think about it is I'm like talking to myself, kind of. So whenever I watch this back, I'm gonna be like, okay, this is the things that I should be doing. This is what would be beneficial for my mental health or for anybody in similar situations. But yeah, I guess we can get started. I wanted to give like the actual definition of what mental health is because I know a lot of people have misconceptions about it, like something that you cannot get past, or like basically the only way out is if you do something that like you're gonna regret. But to give you the actual definition, no, that that is made up. Yeah, mental health is not made up at all. It's real. My wife just sent a chat saying to bring up that it's one of the misconceptions is that it's made up, which is really not. But I do want to give the definition. So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and it basically helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and basically make choices in your life. So if something is wrong with your mental health, then it's obviously going to directly affect your life. So I guess I want to talk about how this is viewed in mostly like our Hispanic culture. And like I said, I'm not expert. I have no data to back this up, but out of experience and out of things that I have lived and I have seen other people live or heard their stories or things like that. I feel like mental health is really not something that really is talked about in Hispanic cultures. It's basically non-existent, and I know I'm saying that laughing, but it's really not funny at all. And yeah, specifically for the guys, like Dalia just sent in the chat, specifically for the guys in Hispanic cultures, like the only thing that I can think about a guy talking about things that they may feel or things like that, or like when we're standing around the fire, the fire pit. But even then, it's not things that like you can talk something out with somebody and try to feel better about or anything like that. It's just random talk. So what I mean by mental health is not something that is important, not important, but is that it's not talked about. Is because I've never been, how do I say this without burning anybody? Like I've never experienced somebody asking like, "Are you having trouble with like how you're feeling?" Or I've never been directly asked like, you know, "Are you feeling good about yourself? Or is everything okay with you? How you view yourself?" Like I don't know how to say it specifically, but basically, I've never been directly asked, "Are you okay mentally?" I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not a thing. It doesn't exist. And like Talia said, specifically for guys, it doesn't exist. Like, we don't talk about our feelings with our parents or anything. I mean, you guys might have a different experience, but I guess it depends how you interact with your parents. But the majority of people that I've known and then talked to, like there's no like that, like you can't go up to them and say like I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling this way, because they'll be like, oh, you're depressed, and go clean up or go do something. But basically, like ponte las pilas sobre advice. Like it doesn't exist. But and I know I'm laughing, but it's just funny the way that things are, we have handled these things this way. And I am talking like in the past kind of thing, because I'm have been trying to be that new generation, like be different to how they were in the past. I definitely don't want my son, like feeling like he cannot talk to me about something, or feeling like I'm just gonna tell him, "Oh, tough it up." Like you handle it, you're gonna handle it, whatever. Get over it. Like I never want to be that way. I want him to talk to me. I feel like that's the, if anything I can bring as a parent, like that's gonna be the only thing that I want. That I think is the most important. And this, like how I said, it's been the most overlooked thing that we have really gone through, in our generation. And the generation I'm talking about is mostly millennials, or people from um coming from immigrant parents, or people like from other countries, because things are kind of different. Like the culture is different. Things are obviously gonna be not the same. Like I know my how do I say this? Like I can't blame my parents for being the way they are, and then they can't blame their parents for being the way they are, because basically I feel like it all started somewhere. Like they, generation to generation, like their dad didn't ask them how they were feeling, so why would I ask them my son? Like I feel like this generation has been really good about that. Like we really like nipped that in the bud. Like, okay, this ends here, sort of mentality. I mean, it's for me. I guess is what I'm saying. Like other people are like, I hope for after you guys watch this podcast, like you take that mentality. Like, okay, I want to be there for my kids. I want to be different and not continue that cycle that we've been just passing down from generation to generation. And going back to what Tane has said, that it's made up. Like I am guilty. I admit to that. Like of sometimes I'll brush off like something. So for example, like let's say she'll be like, "Oh, I'm really feeling overwhelmed today, or I'm feeling anxious about this." Like my inner instincts automatically go to my default, and my default basically is like rub it off, like, oh, why are you worried about it? Like nothing's gonna happen. Like there's no reason you should be feeling that way. Like basically, what is that word? I think it's called gaslighting. But yeah, I'm very guilty of that, and I need to stop doing that. But I know my wife has seen some change. Like at the beginning, I wouldn't always believe like I wouldn't believe like, oh, she's anxious or she's feeling a certain way, and it relating to mental health. And now like when she tells me like, hey, I'm feeling this way about this, like I won't always try to offer a solution, which is something that I've learned along the years. Like sometimes there's like that talk isn't supposed to be there for a solution, is more for like support. And that's something that I've learned. And I want like especially husbands to learn as well. Like there's not a solution. I know it always looks like black and white to us, and it may not for them, but sometimes they just want to, somebody to hear them out, and support them in that way. That's one advice that I can give across this episode, because it's something that I've gone through. So I also wanted to say, like I've said, like I don't want to continue that cycle, especially because we bring. I mean, like my wife and I are bringing two kids now to this world, and it's not a amazing, happy, rainbow world. And I feel like that's something that we need to talk about. Make sure that they understand that not everything's always gonna be the way that they want it to be. right now my 2-year-old is barely learning how to manage his emotions and everything. And I know, like, growing up, he's gonna realize that not everything is gonna go his way, and instead of throwing tantrums, like, yeah, he's gonna have to learn that, there's gonna be things that don't turn out the way we want to. Like, he may not get the car that he's hoping for, or whatever. He might get that life that he's hoping for, or whatever. But I do want him to know, like, we're always gonna be there for him and everything. And if he ever is feeling a certain way, like depression or anything like that, that we're there for him. And I also want to talk about that. Like, sometimes mental health, and one of my friends told me this. Okay, well, she's been on the podcast, Daisy. Sometimes it doesn't have to do with like your day to day. Sometimes it's just biologically something is up with your, like, your brain chemistry, or your body. If something is not right, you may be like needing, like, that medical attention. Sometimes it could be that. And if it is that, I feel like some people may find it hard to realize that that's happening. So I did want to say some of the warning signs. I looked this up earlier, to save the struggle if you're listening to this. So some of the early warning signs and symptoms are, maybe you're like eating or sleeping too much or too little. I know that's like a broad thing, but basically anything out of your norm, like something is up, or like pulling away from people and usual activities that you usually do, like having low or no energy, feeling numb, or like nothing really matters, like having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless or hopeless, maybe smoking, drinking, or just using drugs, like, more than usual to just get out of that the state of mind. Feeling unusual, confused, forgetful, angry, upset, worried, or scared. Like, basically any emotion that's out of your norm. Those are kind of like the red flags. You may need to be checked out, or just kind of like talk to somebody if you don't have that option. Yeah, negative thoughts, like my wife just put in the chat. Yeah, those are some of the symptoms that maybe something's up with your mental health, and you may need to contact somebody, like a actual medical professional. And if obviously you can't afford it or anything like that, it's one of your reasons is you can also just talk to somebody. I did look up a hotline. There's a hotline for that. I'll plug that in, maybe in the end of the episode, when the description. But I think the code is 998. If you text 998, you can receive help that way. Yeah, and I'll post it on Instagram as well. Basically, there's help out there. Like, you're not alone. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this. I know I'm not, like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not somebody who's perfectly handling my mental, health. But I do want, like, mental health is important to both me and what I'm advocating in my podcast. Like, I know is one of the reasons that I'm kind of sort of doing this, because, like, if I like having purpose, having a reason to be doing something, because I could just be like joking around and playing around and having fun. But I feel like mental health is one of the things that we really need to talk about. Some of the tips that I found: talk to your primary care physician, or like seek medical help. And even if it doesn't get to that level, like any type of stress, or just like feeling like not yourself, is maybe like a little, like, reminder, like, hey, you need to take care of yourself. You need to change your routine, like start doing things a little bit differently, because something is not basically not working. Yeah, like my wife just put on the chat, maybe writing about your emotions may help you realize that you need help. Like, sort of those things, like, stay in touch with how you're feeling, and don't just brush it off. Don't just, how do I say, like, don't just sweep it under the rug, because like it's affecting you, and you'll sooner or later realize that you may just need that help or that support from somebody. You know, some of the practice that you can do for self care would be like meditation. You know, it doesn't even have to be called meditation. You know, you could just sit down. You know, can sort of think about what's going on. Like, make sure that you're not being like too negative about situations, or even if you just don't want to think about anything. You know, just sit, relax, drink some tea, or even if like exercising is your method, exercise. Make sure that you're working on yourself, you're healthy, and you're getting basically enough sleep. Like anything that has to do with you and your well-being. You know, uh, yeah. My wife said like sports. Maybe get your mind off of things that are happening. You know, or just a bubble bath. Yeah, bubble bath would be nice. And yeah, another tip is reach out to family and friends. You know, I don't want everybody to think like they're just alone. Like you have support. And I know some people might say like, "Oh well, I tell my parents how I feel," and they just like brush it off. Like just like I was talking about Hispanic families, like you'll be like, "Hey, I don't know if I'm feeling down about this," and they'll just be like, "Oh, well, ponte a barrer or ponte a trapear or something. I don't know, just do something." And like I feel like you shouldn't blame them either, because that's just how they were raised. But if you are going through a situation like that where you don't have the support from your parents, you know, reach out to a friend or, you know, a cousin or something. And obviously, if you don't get the help from them and you're really feeling down, you're feeling something that's not right, you can always contact like a medical professional, or the hotline that I'm gonna share later. But yeah, that's more for extreme situations where you're just like not feeling yourself. Either way, they'll give you the help that you need. But yeah, definitely, there's always somebody there. There's always help. That's something that I want to reiterate. There's always help, because I've felt alone before. You know, obviously, I feel like everybody's felt alone at some point in their lives. But there's always somebody who's gonna listen to you, who's gonna care about you, and I feel like you have to keep that in mind. Don't ever think you guys are alone. That's one of the reasons I was doing the Instagram thing. Like I asked y'all, like, how are you guys feeling, or like, it's Mental Health Month. Like, does anybody want to share anything? Because I know I've been in those situations too, where I'll be like, hey, I'm not feeling good about what this is happening or whatever, or I'm feeling down about not getting this promotion or whatever, or it's just something not going right, and you just get brushed off like, oh, they don't care about you, or just that feeling of like nobody cares. Like, I want you guys not to feel that way, so that's why I did that. And some people did share. Let me see. I know it was really anonymous, but I mean I can share because that's the whole reason I did it, so we can have somebody that basically cares about what you guys are saying. I know one of the mental health shares was that they have a problem being a family pleaser. And I really related to this one because I'm a first born, like, what is it called? First generation, like, I guess Hispanic family living in the, I don't know how to say it, living in the US, I guess. Yeah, older sibling kind of thing. So like I understand this really too well. Like I know my wife knows this as well. I know this way too well because I've always felt like a second dad. And I know it sounds kind of funny to say that, but like I have siblings, but I don't see them as like siblings. I feel like since they were born way later, so I'm like 15 years older than them. So when they were born, I feel like that I've sort of like have influenced them a little bit. Like I feel like I've been raising them as well with my parents. But like I said, like that family pleaser kind I'm not, I don't want to call it a burden either, because I don't regret like helping and being who I am, but it is a thing that affects your life, and it is not always gonna like work out perfectly, especially when you start your own life and everything. Like sometimes it really affects how your life is, especially if you care so much about your family. You can always help them the way that you want to help them. You can always do exactly what they're asking for, especially for like being immigrant parents. Like the fact that they can't get there, like there's things without you having to, for example, like immigrant parents can't get papers unless their kids are like in the military. Like that's a huge thing. Like, oh, like if you love your parents, you must do this so they're happy. Like that sort of thing is also scary. And like I feel like it's a really heavy weight that you have to carry. And like my wife is saying, like sometimes you're just tired as well. Like not just being like the older sibling, I guess, is, but it's a lot. Like sometimes you feel like you don't want to let people down, but then yeah, like having your own problems. Yeah, you have your own problems that you have to deal with, your own life that you have to deal with, and on top of that, you have to kind of split yourself. Like there's only 100% of you, and you're gonna be worried about this, and then worried about that. Like you kind of put you under the rug. Is kind of what I was saying not to do. But yeah, that's sort of what ends up happening when you're the older sibling, and I understand that. I literally like I am the older sibling. And I've gone through that. Also feel like being the older sibling, you're sort of like not overlooked, but I feel like once the next kids started coming, like you were like pushed down the level of like, how do I say, priority, right? I'm not sure if anybody else relates to that, but I felt that way. Like the new kids come, like you just get pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. Yeah, and then you're not a kid anymore. But yeah, that's something that I've noticed as well, as like as being one of the first older siblings. Um, and like I said, like even if you're feeling that way, like it's hard to say like talk to your parents, because like what I just said, like they'll just brush it off and say like ponte las pilas, and like send you on your way, even though you're not feeling yourself or feeling good about anything. But just sharing with somebody like we're doing right now, I wish more people would have participated so we can talk about like how you guys are feeling and going through anything. But oh well, I mean, I'll still ask in the description, and if you guys want to comment anything about like something that you may be going through or anything, or just you just want somebody to talk to, we're there. Well, I'm there. I'm looking at my podcast, Instagram all the time. Or if you feel like you need more professional help, I'll share the hotline. My wife is saying in the chat like sometimes you feel like you have to pull away from your own problems, or no, sometimes you have to pull away from your family problems to deal with your own problems. And even though that's totally acceptable, like I understand how that may be frustrating and really make you feel like you're not doing something right. But yeah, it's definitely something that it can be talked about, like if you're feeling like you're spending that time, it really becomes difficult because, like I said, it's only 100% of you, and you're either gonna go one way or the other. Like you can't split yourself so many times. Um, but definitely thanks for whoever shared that. Totally relatable. I know for my wife and I, like we're firstborns, older siblings. Like we're literally parents, second parents to our siblings, and have to take care of them and care for them, and you know, even as they get older, like they still relate on us. I mean, my siblings aren't that older yet, but I know my wife, like they'll be like, "What do I put for Social Security under Social Security?" Like like you want to not help, but like it's always, I mean, it's important, and if they're reaching out to you, like it's something that I guess, like I'm saying, like maybe if they're not feeling good about something, like they'll talk to you about it, and like it's okay, to have that connection. There's also one that somebody else shared. Whatever I do, however hard I work, it never seems to be enough. So I definitely related to that share. I know my wife asked me about this one, and I told her I didn't want to say who it was. But there was another share that was sometimes, no matter how hard I try or how successful I am in something, I feel like a failure. So, in the essence of Mental Health Month and asking you guys to share, and like me basically just saying share, share, share. So, to be honest, like that share was mine. So, I'm the one who put, sometimes, no matter how hard I try or how successful I am in something, I feel like a failure. And the reason I said that is because I feel like sometimes we compare our success to other people. So, like, yeah, for example, I see some friends, like, they have their own businesses, like multiple businesses. They're doing good, they're growing, they're like driving these nice trucks, they have like these nice houses. And, like, it's not, how I say, it's not envy, but it's like, if you put our lives in a chart, I feel like maybe they're doing a little better in that aspect while I'm doing better in another aspect. But at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes I feel like that, like I'm not where I should be. But the reason I shared that was because I want everybody else to also feel like they can share, not with the podcast if you don't want to, but with someone. Another reason I said that was because I've been having the podcast now for like I think 6 months, and I feel like I'm not really growing too much, or like I kind of feel like I'm not getting anywhere. Uh, I always have like this monkey on my shoulder, like telling me, like, quit. Like, why are you doing this podcast? Like, basically, like, who are you? Like, like my one of my descriptions here is like, I'm overcoming introvert being an introvert, right? Because that's who I am. Like, I'm an introvert. Naturally, I'm an introvert. I don't talk to like a million people. But the reason I started doing this was because I wanted to push myself. So I want to push myself to be someone who is social, because I feel like I really need it. I have gotten better. Uh, Recently I disclosed, like, I changed the meaning of the B to the cubed, so B3 party C. So I'm saying basically it's Brandon, be better. So what I mean by that is, like, internally, I feel like I need to work on myself. I need to be better, and every day I feel like I need to change. In all aspects, basically, like in being a father, I need to improve. In my health, like I'm not healthy at all. Like I'm really, like, this is the highest weight I've ever been. So that really affects me. my what's it called, my it's not, I guess you could say insecurity. Like it basically affects my mental because I don't want to be this way. Obviously, I want to be healthy. I want to be around for my kids to see me, as they grow up. I want to be in their lives. I want to be there for everything. Like I want to see them get married. I want to see them, like it just gets me emotional. Like if something were to happen to me, I would hate that. Like that'd be like the worst thing that it could happen because I want to be part of their lives. And that's one of the fears that I have. I know, like I always joke around with my wife. I'm like, you guys don't need me. Like she's the one who feeds them, who takes care of them. Like guys don't need me. But I mean, inside, I'm not being for real. Like I know, even if I'm just like reiterating whatever she says, like sit down. And I'm like, sit down. Your mom says sit down. Like that's all I'm really there for. But I really feel like sometimes I do feel like I'm not really needed. But like I said, like that's maybe sometimes you feel like that too. Like anybody can really feel like that. I just wanted to share that with you guys because, like I'm saying, like self care, sharing with somebody, like looking for that support, like those are things that are important. You can't do it all by yourself. Like, and I always remind myself and my wife about this. Like, we have people around us for a reason. Like, they help us get through things. Like, they'll help us deal with like things that may be too much to handle, or just in general, like helping us do things that are making us stressed. Things like that are important. If you don't take care of your stress, like you're gonna get burned out. And I've been there. I've been burnt out before, and it's not fun. Even like that, like burnt out from work. Like there has to be a work life balance, and this is coming from a workaholic person, especially podcast now, podcast workaholic person. There has to be a balance between just relaxing, basically, like just relaxing, like focusing on yourself, not like doing a hobby or what. I mean, a hobby, I guess it would be okay, but for example, a podcast may be a little too much work to be called a hobby because I put in a lot of work to the podcast, like sharing on socials, like editing. Like now that I'm on Riverside, it's not so hard. Like I used to spend like 6 hours editing, and that was horrible. Like I would record at 10:30 at night, and the episode like at 12:30 a.m. and then stay up like until 5 a.m. like editing because I had to get it done in the weekend because obviously I work during the week and I don't like mixing. But yeah, definitely make things faster. So that's I have become like an affiliate of Riverside. So if you guys want to talk about Riverside, I can also talk about Riverside. But that's for another occasion, I guess. But I just wanted to plug that because it has reduced my stress, and that's one of the things I'm talking about, mental health. So yeah, like especially as a busy parent and a podcaster, like prioritizing your self care is really important. This weekend, I really felt better because I didn't spend it making any post or doing anything really. Like all I did was like hang out with my family. Like it was my brother's birthday, and then we watched the Canelo Munguia fight, and it was fun. It was really fun. And the only reason I wanted to do a podcast today is because I'm like, if I don't keep doing this, my little monkey who's telling me to quit is gonna win. And I really don't want to quit. Like I like saying that I have a podcast. I like knowing that I'm working on something and I'm making myself better and improving even my social skills. Like things like that. My wife over here in the chat, like you're inspiring me to be a blogger. I definitely think you should be a blogger, and I can help you because I have a blog and website that you can write stories in and post them in your own little navigation menu, like Dalia's blogs. But yeah, my wife likes to write, and I got her a journal for her birthday. I think it was your birthday, right? Or I forgot what it was. But yeah, it was I got her a journal and some cool pens. But yeah, it's really important to, like, if it's a hobby, you can do a hobby. Like, don't, something that's not gonna stress you out or make you feel like, oh, I need to get this done. Like, something that you're just gonna relax. This is my me time. This is for me and nobody else. um. So to kind of wrap this episode up, so my main points in this episode were mental health is important, and I know we brush it off, especially if you're from like Hispanic culture backgrounds. And like I said, like, this is my experience. Uh, it might not be yours, which is great. Like, I really admire people who have gotten out of that cycle. Like the things that I'm trying to do, like things that our generation is trying to do, like be there for your kids, be there for your family, be there, present. Like, don't rub off how your kids are feeling. And like I said, I'm not an expert in this. I'm not perfect at this. I know I've done this. So, like, I've messed up in a way. Like, sometimes my brothers have come to me like, "Hey, I'm feeling this way," or whatever, and I'll brush it off. Like, I'll be like, "Oh, like, why you worried about that or this?" And, like, I'll make that mistake, and I own that. Like, I know I'm making that mistake, and I need to work on that. But like, if you guys are in the same situation, like, as long as you guys are working on that, I feel like that's the most important thing. Like, if you continue to work on that, like being a better person, being there for people who are coming to you, for support. That's something that's really important. Um, and I guess, like, also as a parent, like, I really want to stress this one because it's really important. First of all, like, you know what you're doing for your family, you know what you're doing for your kids. Don't ever let somebody make you feel like you're not a good dad, like a good mom, or whatever. Like, I know we all do things differently. We all, like, raise our kids differently. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's gonna have the perfect formula to raising a kid. But I definitely feel like if somebody comments on you, especially people who don't have kids, like, those are the people who always have their freaking opinions about how you're raising your kid. Like, oh, or like, I've been in that situation where I really need to, like, that's another thing. Like, I know it may directly affect mental health, actually. Like, when you need to stand up for yourself, is, I feel like, you have to, like, you have to stand up for yourself no matter what. Like, even if it's family, like, family too, like, it's like the main people that always talking bad about you, or how you raising your kids, or, like, basically, like, it's funny, and both, like, what the, like, what? Like, yeah, and my wife just put, like, random people looking at you weird. Like, like, don't pay attention to those people. Like, those people, first of all, they may not even have kids. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know how much effort it even takes to get them out of the house. Like, oh, like, I know if parents are listening to this episode, like, getting them out the house is like a big task. And, like, don't like, don't listen to people's opinions. Like, unless they're like your friends and they've gone through similar situations, like, if they can help you in a way, like, take that support. But if they don't know, like, if they don't haven't gone through it at all, like, they have no, like, power giving you tips about something. Yeah, like my wife said, it like, going out is like we're going on a trip. like a road trip somewhere for 3 hours. But I wanted to talk about that too, because there's always gonna be somebody telling you you're doing something wrong. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the. There was a post on Instagram or TikTok, I can't remember, but there's like a guy and his wife, like in a donkey, and like they pass by a town, like walking next to their donkey, and like they're passing by next to their donkey and walking. All three of them are walking basically, and the people in the town are like, "Oh, how dumb! Like they have a donkey and they're not riding it. Like what the heck is wrong with them?" And then they pass by another town, and the guy gets on the donkey, and the next town they see, they're like, "Oh my god, look at the guy! He's on the donkey and making the wife walk," you know. And then they pass through the third town or whatever, and the wife is on the donkey and the guy's on like walking, and they're like, "Oh my god, like the wife's like in the donkey." Like basically, like there's always gonna be somebody telling you you're doing something wrong, and to make it even more funnier, like it's always gonna be the people who don't even know like what is happening, or how much effort something takes. Yes, to do always do what you think is right. Like if you're putting that effort, even if you're doing research, like my wife and I are always like on our phones, like even especially when our kids get sick or things like that, like we're always like Google, like, okay, what is right, like how, what are the symptoms, like is this supposed to be this way, is like inform yourself maybe before you reach out to somebody, because they might not know. Like if you have friends or families that do have kids like you and know what it takes, yeah, like know what it takes to even get them at the door. Like those are the people that you should be talking to. Or like my wife saying, like maybe don't always read, like don't always trust what you read online. But I mean, there's a difference between being informed and like getting super freaked out about something. Like don't go down that rabbit hole. Obviously, like there's professional help. If you have a primary care physician, like go to them first before going through that rabbit hole. But always stay informed. It doesn't hurt to know before you go, and like basically, like definitely ask questions when you're there. We always do that with our with our kids' doctor. Like we're like, okay, so this and this and this. Like we saw this. Like basically, just ask there, because I feel like if you don't ask, the anxiety you're gonna have from there, like until the next appointment, or in general, like it's gonna affect you basically. Oh, my wife's saying shout out to Daisy for recommending us to our doctor. I'll plug them in our Instagram post. But yeah, he's a really good doctor. He answers all our questions no matter what it is, and they even have a night clinic too. So like even if you're worried about something, you can go at night. But it's pretty cool. I know there's a lot of mental health topics also in parenting, because it's not always like magic and rainbows. It's really not. It's a lot of fear, a lot of worrying, always taking care of them. Like sometimes you're so busy taking care of them that you forget to take care of you. My wife's saying that sometimes social media makes us feel like we're not doing it right. But like I said, like everybody has their own way of doing things. Like I've seen those Instagram posts or whatever, TikTok posts, where they'll be like, "Oh, do this like this," and like if you're doing this, it's wrong. Like I mean, everybody has their own way. You should try something. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Sort of thing. Like, but like I said, don't listen to those people. Like, I'm sorry, I have to say this, but if you are a dog owner and you don't have kids, like, okay, you can call yourself a parent, like a dog parent, but you're not a parent. You're not a real parent. Like, it's not the same. Maybe for some people, because some people I know take care of their dogs and pets a lot. But like saying something like, "Oh, look, my dog is more obedient than your kid," like that's like it's a human being, like especially toddlers. Like I know people who have a toddler right now, like You can't compare a dog to a toddler or a kid. Like that's just dumb in my opinion. Like my wife said, like don't listen to those people that look at you weird or whatever, because they don't know the effort it takes. I know our son has really helped us with our patience, if I should say that. Uh, he's really like intense emotional, if I guess I can say that. Like if he doesn't like something, he'll freak out. I know Roxy, she took pictures of us, shot by a vision. That was the photography that I was doing the giveaway with that nobody participated in. Rest in peace. But uh, yeah, he was not liking getting pictures taken. He doesn't like nurses. He doesn't like doctors. Whenever we're at the mall or something, like he doesn't always like going some places. So he'll throw that little tantrum or scream. But what I'm trying to get to, like, I know what she's talking about. Like, he may be screaming or whatever, and then like, oh, like these people, like, oh, like, shut that kid up, Like they won't say it, but you can tell that's how they're feeling. Like, don't pay attention to those people. Like, they don't have kids for a reason. Yeah, their face, like, you can tell something, like those bad vibes, like bad vibe, bad vibe. But yeah, like nobody can really know what you're going through or how much effort it took you to get the kids out. Like, I know a lot of people would say like people going out with two kids, two under two, like don't do it. And I totally get that now, but I mean we gotta go out too. Like we're not gonna be at home either all the time. Like we gotta live our lives. Who cares what everybody else thinks or says? Like they're not important. You gotta look at the people who, like I said, are going through the same things as you. Know how it is to go through that. People who are gonna support you. Like I think like this is gonna be funny, but we're in the era where like if you're not getting support by somebody, like cut them off. Like to be honest, like cut them off. Like what are we doing? Like life is so short to have somebody who's negative, like talking bad about you. Like you don't need that. How is it? La chusma. No, like you don't need that negativity in your life. Like if somebody's not being positive or not helping you in some way, like this time, either tell them like, hey, like you need to get it straight, get it together, or get out of my life. It sounds nasty, but sometimes you have to do it because it affects you. Like, like I'm saying, mental health, like it affects you. It I've seen it affect people, like really personally. Like I've seen it, like it causes a lot of stress and basically negative aspects. Like, yeah, and it affects your kids. Like having that negativity, like you don't need that, especially for kids who don't know, how to handle their emotions yet or understand what is going on or what's happening. Like especially for stupid things, like oh, like they had this argument and now we're not talking to each other, whatever. Like the kids doesn't understand that. Like it just affects them. Things like that. Like we're in that era. Like if they're not supporting you, it's it's time. Get the scissors. No, but I'm just joking around with that. But yeah, definitely like self care is important. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your own. Take care of your families. Take care of your kids. Like don't let them go through situations that you went through. If you ever felt alone, make sure that they're never alone. That's what I always do. Like my wife always asks me, "Why do you always ask your our kid? Why you always ask him if he's okay?" I literally ask him that like 20 times in a day. Sometimes I've asked him that like 10 times in an hour or whatever. And the reason I do it is because I want him to get used to that. I want him to get used to me asking him, "Are you okay?" Are you like I want him to be like this is a normal thing. I can share how I feel all the time. And that's one of my goals. Like my son doesn't talk yet. he's getting better, but one day I want to ask him, "Are you okay?" And he'll respond, like yes. You know, that would make the world for me. It would be so great for me to hear that. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get him to be able to communicate with us and not be afraid of sharing how he's feeling. But yeah, definitely. I know I said I was gonna wrap the episode up, but my wife got me into that topic, and I really wanted to get into that. So takeaways again would be: take care of yourself. Mental health is important. Don't brush it off. I know we have that instinct to always just brush it off, but sometimes it comes to that situation where you have to take care of yourself. If it gets to that point where you need medical, like professional attention, make sure that you do that. I know I'm saying that like a freaking hypocrite, but like I said, I'm not saying these things because I'm doing them. I'm saying these things because is what we should be doing. Like I know I need to go get a doctor checkup or two, but mental health. If you're really in that situation, please reach out. Don't make any rash decisions that you're gonna regret later on. um, Another takeaway is if you're a firstborn, it's understandable how you may have that burden. Well, no, I said I didn't want to call it a burden, but what's it called? Luisa, like carrying all the heavy rocks. Like, we carry a lot, and it's understandable. There's not always much that we can do about it, but definitely talk to somebody about it. Yeah, from Luisa from Encanto. The song. I can't remember it right now, but she's dancing with the donkeys and then carrying another. Yeah, the pressure, surface pressure. Like, yeah, I related to that song so much. But I remember we watched it the first time. We were like, "Oh my god, the surface pressure is too much for our firstborns." But yeah, no, that's another takeaway. If you're a firstborn, like, just pat yourself on the back because I know you were basically second parents. We have a lot on our shoulders, and just the fact that we're here still, and we're even like us, having kids and everything. We're already in the family, set of mind, state of mind. But yeah, definitely, it's something that is, like, the expectations for that is a lot, and I relate to you guys. And finally, um if you want to share anything with me, with the podcast, I know I say with us, but it's basically just me, the podcast now. uh, and yeah, that's it for this episode. And thank you guys for listening. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I appreciate y'all taking the time to watch this video if you do. And yeah, don't forget, somebody always cares, even if it's a podcast with like no followers and nobody wants to participate in my giveaways. Nah, it's okay. All right, bye.